What is up, my fellow Chibits? Today, I'm here to bring all of you, once again, another weekly manga chapter review of Taizai, chapter 172. Okay, so this is the last chapter we're going to get, and then we're going to go on a brief break when it comes to Taizai. For instance, Golden Week. I know this week is necessarily Golden Week, but the chapters technically we get early. So, yeah, next week's chapter of Taizai we will not be getting. So, FYI to all of you right now that are wondering why we have a chapter out today, and especially Fairy Tail as well. So, talking about Taizai. This chapter, oh my goodness. I'm gonna say that I can't wait to see this anime. I know I have my certain issues with the anime adaptation of Taizai, but I do want to see this fight animated. I really want to see it animated. I hope it's not censored, but I would love to see this fight. Meliodas versus the Fairy King and the King of the Giants, Balor. I would love to see this animated, even if it's an OVA. This fucking chapter and the last chapter, incredible. The fighting panels, panel by panel, it was so fluid. I just could already see it animated inside of my head. So, this chapter, another badass chapter, which just, it surprises me because I expected to see the Fairy King and Balor actually starting to kick the shit out of Meliodas, but apparently that did not happen. Meliodas actually curb stomped both of them. Now, we already saw him curb stomping them last week, but this week, just annihilation. It's just straight up annihilation for both of them. So, let's go through the chapter. Pretty much, we get to see a little bit of backstory on the Fairy King. We come to find out that Balor and the Fairy King, at one point in time, they were actually friends. They were allies. They were a part of a team to take down the Demon King. Now, this is very strange because, FYI, if you kind of lost track of it, the 10 commandments are underneath the Demon King. The Demon King gave the commandments each one of their commandments, which the commandment part of this chapter I need to get into because, you know, Balor and the Fairy King, we never really got much information on their commandments. They never really got to showcase them in this fight, so I don't know exactly how that's going to work, if Nakaba Sensei is going to show that or not, if they're really done or not, I have no idea, but I'm just going to throw that out there. But when it comes to them being allies, this is the thing that really throws me for a loop, because we already have hints that Meliodas, at one point in time, he was a part of the 10 Commandments, or at the very least, he was working underneath the Demon King, because we know for a fact Meliodas' brothers are Zeldris and Estarossa. We already know this. So, because of that, we know he's connected to the higher forms of 10 Commandments, which explains his strength. But on top of that, though, it makes you wonder, like, Meliodas was partnered with Balor and the Fairy King. They were a team to take down the Demon King in the past. And what made these two change? I mean, we get a little bit of brief backstory, but we don't get the entirety of it. So hopefully we get a flashback kind of revealing all the information on what happened to Balor and the Fairy King. So, right now though, Meliodas is asked, is he really trying to kill them? Like, is he honestly trying to kill them and put them down? And Meliodas answers, yes, of course I do. I want to kill you. He's like, I know all about your reasons and what drove you to go this way, why you're a part of the 10 Commandments. I know why you're there. But it's not going to stop me from killing you. And Meliodas goes on with giving us information on both of them. For instance, he says, you were betrayed by the people you trusted most, and you had something even more precious to you than your own life taken from you. So I want to assume whatever was taken from the Fairy King was most likely the person that was actually attacking Bond multiple arcs ago, or earlier on in this arc. You remember the fairy that looks like a lookalike to the Fairy King right here? I've already talked about this person quite a bit, so I'm not going to completely dive into it, but I'm going to assume that the person that was taken, or something precious taken away from you, most likely is that fairy. So, we got some hints towards that, but then we get into Balor. Now, Balor's overall backstory, we don't get the entirety of it. His is very mysterious, because I want to know more about this one. Pretty much, he was a proud warrior. He strived to be the strongest of all. He's pretty much the king of the giants already, but he strived to be the strongest of all, but that pride was stomped into pieces and trampled underfoot. So whatever happened to him, his pride was completely demolished, and whatever happened in the past, he probably lost everything, or he no longer cares about that pride. And I wonder exactly what happened to him to lose that pride, or what trampled his pride into pieces. Was it the Demon King that caused that? Was it something else? Maybe Meliodas indirectly caused it because, you know, he used to be a part of their team and he left to join the Seven Deadly Sins. I mean, we don't know the entirety of this story, so hopefully we get more information on that. Most likely, knowing Nakaba-sensei, he might do a side story revealing this information about the Ten Commandments, or at the very least, these two characters. Now, you have to remember the Fairy King is like, if you know all this, then why? The thing is, once you decide to go that way, there's no coming back. So this is something that's very confusing to me. Meliodas says once you go that way, which is very, like, kind of subtle. We don't really know what go that way means, but I'm going to assume is join the Ten Commandments, becoming a commandment underneath the Demon King. I'm guessing that's what he means, go that way. And I don't really know exactly how to take this, but he says, since you're going that way, I have no choice. I have to kill you both. So, a lot of mystery in this chapter, a lot of questions, more than answers, actually. And the fight begins, and this is the part I was talking about earlier on in this video that I would love to see anime. I could already imagine badass fucking soundtrack in the background of this. I mean, you just see the freaking magic being used, like Spirit Spear, and the laser. Oh my god, that's nasty. That's fucking nasty. Let's take a moment to look at the destructive capabilities of the Fairy King right here. We all know at this time, the Ten Commandments are not at maximum power. They are weakened. They are not as strong as their pinnacle self. So, at this time, they're not at max strength. The reason why they're getting whooped so bad, at the very least by Meliodas, is because they're not at the max level of strength they could possibly be at. Because they need to eat souls, gain their strength up. And just already seeing the strength of this Ten Commandment, shooting this giant-ass fucking laser, it travels, oh my god, it looks like for miles. You just see a huge zoom out of like a horizon of mountains, and this laser's coming from the sky at an angle, just going straight down, pushing Meliodas. And you know, the speed of this is ridiculous, but the distance and how far it goes, but then when it actually hits, the explosion is once again zoomed out. Because take a moment to look at this panel. Look at the right side of the panel, like the bottom right. You will see the maze, and you know that maze was fucking gigantic. It was a big-ass fucking maze. Look at the maze in the bottom right. I mean, you see little houses way down there. You see mountains and stuff just getting obliterated. It's like a freaking nuke just setting off. So, the power of these Ten Commandments, and these are like the weakest of the Ten Commandments, the power of them is insane. I can't even imagine what Estarossa and Zeldris is going to be like if we're already seeing something like this. Just imagine the power scale. So, after that, we get a brief description, or the situation, or like the rundown on the others that are currently not fighting. For instance, Bond, King, Diane, you know, Matrona, all of them. They're pretty much talking about the situation. That power's crazy. We can't do nothing. Pretty much, they can't really step in right now. They would just be in the way of Meliodas while he's fighting. And since, you know, Escanor, he's kind of fucking down at the moment. He can't even move. Well, yeah, he can't help either, so he's kind of useless at this time. So, all the other characters right now are way too weak to go up against the Ten Commandments, which means that most likely Nakaba-sensei is going to have to dive into some form of training arc very soon, which I could see happening, because we already know Bond. We got to see a brief fight with him fighting one of the Ten Commandments in the past, Scylla, and remember, he has a maximum limit on his strength he can take from people around in a certain radius, and he can't go over that limit. It has negative effects on his body. So, he already has his limiter to where he can't, like, you know, go past it. Maybe he can eventually break it, we have no idea. But at this time, though, Bond could barely even fight. And, I mean, we know for a fact others, they're nowhere near that strength. Maybe King could possibly fight, but at this time, he also is very weakened because, you know, he hurt himself while he was using the true form of the Spirit Spear, so we know he can't fight either. So, overall, just calculating all this in, our main characters, they definitely need to get stronger, because there's no way in fuck they're going to be able to fight the other Ten Commandments if they can't even fight probably the lower tier form of the Ten Commandments. Now, one thing I have to say I am disappointed about when it comes to this chapter, there is one thing in general, and that would be how pretty much Meliodas finished off Balor and the Fairy King. I was hoping that Diane and King would take them out, because see, they're the king of their species. For instance, Balor, king of the giants, and then the Fairy King, you know, king of the fairies. The old king, the original king. And, you know, King took over. And it would be really nice if Diane took down Balor to become, like, the strongest of the giants, and then King took down the Fairy King to become the strongest of the fairies. It would serve as good development for their characters and also as good training for them to get stronger. I would love if Nakaba-sensei did that, but I guess he has other plans in mind, so I can't wait to see what he's going to do with these two characters. But overall, though, when it comes to this segment, pretty much Meliodas and Escanor are the only characters at this time that could really even fight the Ten Commandments. So, yeah. Anyways, the fight rages on. They're going against each other, and it's a crazy fight. Back and forth. You just see the Fairy King just shooting lasers and stuff, using the Spirit Spear. And Meliodas' transformation. Oh my god, dude. Oh, that's nasty. His wings, his demonic wings. I love the demonic form of Meliodas. It always looked badass. But these fucking wings coming out of him, like as he's zooming across a wide area of land, it's so badass. I don't even want to begin to imagine how fast he's probably going. Like, he was really far. We saw the distance. Remember, the laser just shot him miles away. And he's already back in a matter of like a second, probably. Like a second or 2 seconds. He's back. Already. The speed of Meliodas that we need to take in right now is ridiculous. So, yeah. Don't mess with him. We thought, Gollum was ridiculous with his speed. Meliodas, Gollum has nothing on Meliodas. And so the chapter pretty much ends with internal organs getting ruptured. Meliodas punches the Fairy King in the stomach, and oh my god, that's horrific. That looks fucking horrific. And Balor getting pretty much cleaved in two. So that's about it when it comes to this chapter. Oh yeah, one more thing though. Gilfrost. Gilfrost has the ability to teleport. Not as strong as it seems to be like Merlin, but Gilfrost has the ability to teleport. Similar in a way to Merlin, but not exactly. So, yeah, I still have my suspicion about Gilfrost when it comes to Zarathustra, because, a couple chapters ago with, Dreyfus, and when he was talking about he hasn't seen the spirit of Zarathustra, Gilfrost most likely is still connected to Zarathustra in some way, and Gilthunder, but we'll have to see where that develops. But overall, a very good chapter, action-packed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. You all have a wonderful day or night wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.